This Spanish movie Los Renglones Torcidos de Dios is a story of uncertainty, deception, and shifting truths unfolds within the walls of a psychiatric institution. It begins in 1979 when an elderly man drives a woman named Alice Gould to a secluded asylum hidden away from the outside world. She enters alone, carrying admission papers that include her husband Heliodoro's signature and a letter from her family, Dr. Donadio. The letter describes Alice as exceptionally intelligent but dangerously manipulative, a woman who constructs one lie after another until she creates an entirely false version of reality. Doctors are warned that she has the skill to trick even experienced professionals. Alice's first interview immediately challenges this portrait. Calm and articulate, she explains that she is not a patient at all, but a private detective well-educated and trained in multiple disciplines, including chemistry. She claims her marriage to Heliodoro is strained. He is uneducated and depends entirely on her wealth. According to Alice, he accused her of attempting to poison him with undetectable substances on 3 separate occasions. She insists these charges are fabrications meant to discredit her so he can control her fortune. She requests to meet the facility's director, Dr. Samuel Alvar, but is informed he is on vacation. Instead, she is received by the deputy director, Dr. Castell, who processes her admission. Alice is allowed to keep one personal item, a book, though it is soon revealed the book conceals a collection of newspaper clippings and confidential documents concerning the suspicious death of a young patient named Damian. With this discovery, the audience learns Alice's secret. She is not there as a patient, but as an investigator. Damian's father, Mr. Del Olmo, had doubts about his son's supposed suicide and recruited Alice to discover the truth. Posing as an inmate gave her the opportunity to investigate from within. Alice quickly begins studying the patients. In the cafeteria, she encounters Ignacio, who appears far more rational than those around him. Their conversation is disturbed by Ojeda, a crude dwarf who tries to grope her under the table only to be defended by the Elephant Man, a physically imposing but simple-minded giant. Later, Alice sees Ignacio smoking with a lighter, an unusual privilege in such a facility. She also notices twins Romulus and Remo, who are accompanied by a timid young girl. Ignacio explains that the twins were born in the asylum to parents with cognitive impairments. Remo is mute while Romulus compulsively imitates others and has assumed the role of protector for the girl he considers his sister. Although Alice tries to gather information, most patients provide only fragments of distorted memories. Her intelligence, however, soon catches the attention of Dr. Ariano, who treats her with more respect than others. Determined to access official records, Alice devises a distraction. She spills a hot drink on herself, persuading Ariano to grant her entry to the staff bathroom. Once inside, she stuffs socks into the toilet, causing a flood. When staff rush out to address the emergency, Alice sneaks into the archive room and removes files. Among them, she discovers a critical detail. Both Ignacio and Ojeda were granted temporary release on November 24, 1978, the very day Damian died. Alice confronts Ignacio with this knowledge. He admits he left the facility, but only to visit his sister. Alice shows him a cryptic letter that had arrived for Damian's father on the same day. The message read, "You killed him, not me," suggesting the writer was suffering from schizophrenia. Alice begins to question Ignacio's sanity and role in the tragedy. As a storm approaches, Ignacio grows visibly anxious. When the rain begins, he collapses in a seizure and blisters erupt across his skin. Another patient explains that Ignacio suffers from hydrophobia, a condition that makes contact with water dangerous. In the infirmary, Alice confesses her detective identity, explaining she was hired to investigate whether Damian's suicide was in fact a murder committed by a former patient seeking revenge on Damian's father. Ignacio, recovering, reveals that Damian had schizophrenia, fought regularly with Ojeda, and that Ojeda disappeared on the day of the incident. Later, Alice notices Ojeda pursuing a woman and follows him into the woods. There he ambushes her, striking her head with a stone. She awakens bound to a stretcher in the infirmary, accused by Dr. Ariano of murdering Ojeda, whose corpse was discovered nearby. Alice insists she remembers Ojeda's assault and someone else striking him, but her words fail to convince. Dr. Alvar returns from vacation, and Alice eagerly reports her findings, believing him to be her secret ally. Instead, he calmly denies ever meeting her or authorizing an investigation. He declares that Alice truly is a patient institutionalized for repeated attempts to poison her husband. In his account, her mind has invented the detective role to avoid confronting her own actions. Alice tries desperately to phone Heliodoro, but Alvar prevents her. In panic, she pushes him, and orderlies restrain her with sedation. 3 days later, Castell visits Alice, who pleads for a formal hearing. During the meeting with the medical board, Alice explains in detail. Del Olmo recruited her. Alvar approved the arrangement. She tricked her husband into signing the forms, and she forged Donatio's note. Alvar counters with authority, describing Alice as manipulative, dangerous, and entirely delusional. He recounts her supposed poisoning attempts and insists Damian's death was not suspicious. The board decides to summon Del Olmo, Heliodoro, or Donatio. Soon an elderly man arrives, presented as Del Olmo. To Alice's shock, he claims no knowledge of her. She insists this man is an imposter, but the board dismisses her protests. She is taken to a secure ward and subjected to shock therapy. In a moment of clarity, Alice forms a new theory. Heliodoro orchestrated the deception, hiring an actor, bribing Donatio, and collaborating with Alvar to seize her fortune. Castell secretly investigates and uncovers irregular financial records showing that Heliodoro paid a suspiciously large sum during Alice's admission. She confronts Alvar, who calls it a donation and attempts to dismiss her, but Castell points out that her termination is not yet valid. Meanwhile, Alice escapes confinement. She incites chaos in the workshop, sets a fire, and with Ignacio's help frees other patients. In the confusion, she flees through the laundry rooms. Ignacio later discovers Romulus dead, apparently killed. The police chief is called. Alice, disguised in a coroner's uniform, is caught examining Romulus's body. She explains her theory. Romulus killed Ojeda when he attacked her, and later the Elephant Man, harboring resentment, killed Romulus using broken glass. Injuries on the Elephant Man's hands support her account, and he is arrested. The police also discover that Heliodoro emptied Alice's bank accounts, giving further weight to her story. Alice faces the medical board again. Castell reports both Heliodoro and Donatio have vanished. Most members vote in Alice's favor, though Alvar abstains. Before leaving, Alvar announces he has spoken with Donatio, who promised to testify that Alice is delusional. As Alvar departs, the old man who originally escorted Alice into the asylum appears. He greets her casually, but his face is identical to the man she claimed was Del Olmo. This movie concludes at this point of ambiguity. Whether Alice uncovered conspiracy of greed and corruption or whether she created a complex delusion remains unresolved.